When I was younger, I thought there was too much competition in the world for me to ever succeed. I've wanted to be an author since I was a young kid, and I used to get discouraged looking out at the world and seeing just how many authors there were. It seems like when you're a consumer, when you're on the outside of the creation process, you're not in the industry, you're not aware of all of the statistics, it feels very overwhelming. It feels like so many people want to do this thing that the chances, the odds or the statistics that you'll be able to succeed at that are not very good. I've felt this way about being an author for a long time, and I felt this way about YouTube for a long time. I thought it was this exclusive club where you either had to be lucky, you had to be in on it early, or you had to be just so hardworking, be able to put so much effort into it and money into it over years and years, and you might eventually succeed if you get lucky. I had these kind of distorted perceptions of what was possible for the average person, or what was possible for me. Maybe part of it was imposter syndrome. I've always seen myself as not as capable as I could have been. I had a self-defeating mindset that's limited me over the years, but I really believed that there was too much competition in the world. There were too many people wanting the same thing as me, and I would have to fight them to get to the top. And I've had this mindset for a long time until I started to realize through certain experiences that competition is a lie. There isn't too much competition for you to succeed. It's all just relative. Like, I went to this teen author boot camp a couple years ago, which is basically a writing conference for young aspiring authors, and one of the speakers there had something really interesting to say. She said, the statistics are a lie. You might have family members tell you that being an author is a long shot because whatever percentage of people who publish or who submit books to publishers don't get a call back. And she said, when people see that, they might think it's unrealistic. You make a book and you submit it and there's only a 20% chance, 5% chance, whatever, that they'll publish you, whatever the statistics are. And she said that's a lie, because she said she has 10 different friends that she's grown up with that all wanted to be an author, and she said every single one of them eventually quit and stopped trying to get books published, except for her and one other friend. Both of them just kept making new books, kept trying to get published, and eventually both of them did. She said those statistics only matter for people who quit at it, because if you just keep doing it forever, maybe it takes you 50 years, but then it's much more likely you succeed. So those rates aren't about the people that can succeed. It's not about the possibility of you yourself succeeding. It's kind of more like the percentage of people that don't follow through, that quit at it. Even the best YouTubers, even like Mr. Beast, started out with a quality of content that would never have gone very far. He started out with just some random Minecraft videos. Same with PewDiePie, same with a lot of these major creators. And you might say, well, most creators fail, and you look at what most creators are doing, and it's that sort of content. And then you look at what the top creators are doing, and you say, well, they were doing that same style of content, but that's not why they're successful. It's not as if they're making the same content as everyone else and they got lucky. It's really, they start out from the same place as everyone else. They're just recording some gameplay, talking over it, some crappy quality, but they transition over time. They get better at YouTube. They get more of a knack for what they're doing. They, just keep at it over the years. They're not upset about the views. They're not getting caught up in all of the analytics. They just keep at it, and eventually they're much more likely to succeed. I think with YouTube specifically, there's been this sort of feeling that, I couldn't get a large amount of views even if I tried. I've never necessarily wanted to be a YouTuber. I always wanted to be more of an author and just did YouTube on the side. I don't care about making money off of YouTube, but I do care about, having a place where I can share my perspective and hopefully help some people. And I, for so long, felt like that was very out there. I've made dozens of channels over the years, and I ended up losing motivation because there was always this underlying lack of faith, this feeling that there was far too much competition for me to be able to stand out and rake in views and be able to share my perspective with a wide enough audience that I can feel comfortable with the effort I'm putting in a way. And what I had to realize at a certain point was that YouTube is very competitive, but I wouldn't say that the demand and the supply are completely met. You know what I mean? It's in economics, there's this thing where it's the demand for a product has to be met by the supply of the product. If there's too much demand and there's not enough supply, then the price of the goods goes up. But if there's too much supply and not a demand, then the price of the supply goes down. And I saw that the amount of supply on YouTube, the amount of creators was going up exponentially. It seemed like in every niche on YouTube, there were just way more creators, way more people trying to do it, and the quality seemed way higher than it had been in the past. Like, this bar just keeps going up, and you have to make better and better content to keep up with it. Like, it seems like everyone has a professional editor now if they want to get in any real number of views. But what I started to realize as I looked a lot more into it is that while the supply is raising, the demand is actually raising exponentially too, which I had never really thought about. I thought that YouTube would get capped out at a certain point. Like, it was this exclusive club where eventually the number of people on YouTube would cap out and the number of creators would keep going up, and so the views would be more and more scarce. But what I didn't factor in is how many people weren't on the platform at that point in time. How many people who spoke English and understood English weren't on YouTube. Like, if you look at India, it's this massive developing population where they're suddenly all getting on YouTube, and there's been an explosion of Indian content creators like T-Series getting millions and millions of subscribers and views because this entire new fan base is coming onto the internet. So while the supply is going up, so is the demand, and an almost equal measure. I think for a long time I kind of had this impression that YouTube was capped out, and then I saw this story along with everyone else of Mr. Beast like totally redefining what it meant to be a YouTuber and bringing it to the next level. And I started to realize this doesn't have to be just some tiny thing that like I thought it was. This might be something that goes on for the next 50, 60 years. YouTube might just get bigger and bigger, and it's just impossible to predict at the time because we don't have that historical hindsight, that nuance that you can only get by looking back. It's like at some point in time, people thought that the car was going to go away. They thought it was just some cheap gag, and it was never going to be able to replace horse-drawn carriages. And I'm not even just saying that. Like, that's a real thing that had happened at the time. They thought it was sort of just a novelty item that, I don't know, maybe they didn't believe it could be manufactured to the level that it was cheap enough for the everyday consumer, or maybe they just didn't have a lot of faith in the technology. But genuinely, like, if you believe people at the time have it all figured out, then I think you are blind to the reality of our own history, because I think we've never had it figured out. We've never known what the future is going to look like. And so I've just decided with everything I care about, if I really care about it, if I'm willing to do it, regardless of the results, I might as well try to get a book published. Maybe the statistics tell me that I won't succeed. What if I publish 2 books? What if I try to get 3 books published? What if I try 20 different times? I'm a 70-year-old man still trying to get a book published. At that point, the statistics are almost in my favor, There's this common thing where it's like, if you flip a coin 5 times, it might have landed on heads 4 out of those 5 times. The statistics don't line up with what they should be, which is 50-50. But the more times you flip that coin, the closer to the median, like the closer to the actual average correct statistic it is. So if you flip a coin 10,000 times, it's going to be much closer to 50%, if that makes sense. And I think it's sort of like that with anything you want to succeed at. They're like, if you never give up, if you just keep going after it, just keep trying, keep applying yourself, keep showing up day after day, then those statistics aren't, like working against you. They're almost in your favor. Like, I think for some reason we have this mindset that like, it's really, really difficult to succeed, and so you might as well not try at all. But it's really like, it's really, really difficult to succeed, so that's why you should really, really try, especially if it's something you care about, and like, although it isn't anything major, like, I feel like I already have succeeded in a big way, that I've been able to do this YouTube thing. When I was 7 years old, I was trying to, do something similar to this, literally like the same concept. I was playing Skyrim, I was trying to talk about life while I played Skyrim, because that's always the things I've been drawn to, and now I'm succeeding at that. And I can only guess that it's because I've had enough faith in myself to want to, take this risk seemingly with my time to do something that isn't guaranteed, do something where the statistics are working against me. But I think if I just show up every day, year after year, I can succeed. I think anyone can succeed at anything, whatever it is you want to do. You want to be an astronaut? Go after it. I think it's better to, live with the regret of failure than live with the regret of never starting, never trying, and not knowing what could have been. And yeah, in your own lives, I think just try to embody this as much as you can. Obviously, I've shared my personal example. It's going to be different with everyone in their own life, but I think this overarching principle has a lot of value if you are able to recognize it and sort of integrate it in your own life. Because I think too many people have this scarcity mindset, and although there is a lot of truth to that mindset, I think it does kind of hold you back in your pursuit of happiness and your pursuit of what you actually want. If you're only thinking out of scarcity, you're discounting the highest possibility, the highest timeline. What if it worked? What if it worked out in the greatest way possible, far beyond your expectations, and you had everything you wanted? You know what I mean? Like, if you totally discount that possibility, it'll never happen. And I don't think you should be like blindly, like obliviously going after something. I think you should be somewhat realistic, but you should also have enough faith in yourself that it's still a possibility and you're still working towards what you really want.